9-time gold medalist, 11-time Olympic medalist Mark Spitz here in studio. Well, when was the last time you wore a mustache? When was the last time you had
I shaved it off, actually, in 1988. It was like, whatever it was, 13, 14 years after the Olympics.
Wow. So you're in your third decade.
That's when I started to get gray hair, and it looked kind of terrible.
Is it, you started looking Sam Elliott-like, sort of like, is what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
looked like?
You know, I grew the mustache because I was defiant with my coach. He says, you have to look like the All-American collegiate swimmer. And so I started growing this in 1972 after the NCAA swim championships, which was in March. And by the time, I guess it was in June or July, I finally had enough to actually look at it, to see it. So I went to the Olympic trials, and when I got there, and it was in Chicago, everybody was talking about this mustache, and I said, you know, maybe I shouldn't shave it off. They're all talking about the mustache. Nobody's talking about how to beat me. I said, this is a great distraction. So I swam, and I broke a couple world records. And then I went to Munich, and I was going to shave it off the night before competition, just to, you know, as my final psych. So what happened was, I wanted to go back to the swimming pool at nighttime. We had practice times in the venue of the actual competition, but only in the morning.
Yeah.
Because there were so many teams, so there were other swim pools out in Munich that we could practice in. So I said to the coach, I said, who's practicing at like 6 o'clock at night tonight? And he says, well, the Russians, it's their last session. I said, well, I'm going to walk over, because the village was, I could just walk over there. I said, I know one of the coaches, maybe they'll let me swim for, I just want to get in the water for 5 minutes. So I went over to the water. He moved out everybody out of lane one. I started swimming back and forth, and there was these underwater windows for the cameras. And all of a sudden I realized when I swam backstroke once, half the coaching staff had disappeared, and there was all these flashes going off under the window. So I was using some stupid, ridiculous stroke when I got to the end of the pool, figuring that if they're taking pictures of me, I'm going to look like an idiot, right, with these dumb stroke. So when I got out of the pool and I was drying off, they all came up with their cameras, unabashed, and the
Russians with
Russian
their cameras.
coaches. And the Russian coach that speaks English says, we've never seen you swim in person. We've only seen it on TV. My colleagues are asking, do you always swim that way with your hand this way? And I said, sure do. So he translated that. Of course, it was a lie. He said, what about your mustache? And they said, well, and I don't know why I said this. I said, well, my mustache, it's great for me. He says, well, doesn't it slow you down? Because, you know, everybody was shaving their body and their hair and everything. Yeah. I go, no, it doesn't slow me down. I said, it deflects the water away from my mouth. I can get much more streamlined, lower in the water, and not have to be worried about getting the water in my mouth. So they were actually listening to this. He's translating like mad all of the actual instructions that I just gave him of why I wasn't going to shave it off.
Yeah.
The next year, every male swimmer had a mustache. And that is a true story. That is a true story.
Maybe you could have fed them something more damaging to their chances than just the mustache if you knew the influence you were having in the moment, Mark, right?
I have no idea. You know, rumor has it that the East German women had mustaches also.
Is that our poll question today with Mark Spitz?
Yeah, it is with Mark Spitz here. Who has, I mean, you don't have it now, but who has the most iconic mustache?
In sports?
It's just kind of in life.
Okay.
So Mark's on the list. Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Raleigh Fingers.
Ooh.
Hulk Hogan, the immortal.
Okay.
Well, I'm in good company.
Geraldo Rivera has a
There
pretty
you go.
iconic
Well, he's
mustache.
actually got the whole, you could ski off of his.
It goes all the way. I mean, lots of great mustaches we couldn't put on the list.
Yeah, you got Freddie Mercury not making it, Jeff Fisher, and I say Hawks is a Fu Manchu. Trebek as well.
Alex Trebek is on the list or
not?
No?
Not on the list.
Who would you vote for on that list right there? Would you go with Geraldo? Raleigh Fingers, would you go?
I know Tom, so Selleck.
You know Selleck?
Yeah.
You must know everybody.
Listen,
Mark.
I'm 65 years old. I didn't fall off the tube truck yesterday.
No, but you also, Ronald Reagan's showing up in your driveway when he's just, your neighbor.
Yeah,
and there's Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
You want to drop a name, Mark? Let's just we've got the floor's got some quality padding. Give me a name. Give me a name that you've met. That's somebody. Drop me a name.
Queen of England.
Queen Elizabeth.
Well, I was actually in her procession to get in from a security point of view in the Montreal Olympic Games. So I was in a room with her.
And? What was that like?
Well, it was an unofficial visit because we were there for the security detail.
So you could call her Liz there, right?
Not exactly.
Okay.
But, she got up by herself and walked over to an area where they had, like, some biscuits and a soda, and stopped and asked me if I would like a soda. I said, sure. I mean, my vision of her is totally different. She's like a mom. I mean, and she is a mother. I mean, she drove like those vehicles for the what do you call it? The Red Cross in the Army.
Yeah.
I mean, in the World War II. She still, even today, drives her own car.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just saw some press release that she was in one of her own vehicles driving somewhere in town.
She's a great-grandmother, right?
Or something like that,
She's a
yeah.
great-grandmother right now. I don't know. I got Mark Spitz here in the studio, here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, I give you the floor on youth sports participation trophies. You heard the conversation. You were in our green room about how there are studies and there are some experts who think it does not prepare people properly for real-life situations. I give you the floor on your thoughts on that,
Well,
Mark.
I mean, this is a very complicated topic, and I think that I was not only an athlete, but I was also a father and then became a coach for AYSO soccer and then also for Little League. And I think that I was talking to you off, off camera, and I said, when I was coaching baseball and I would hear the coaches say to an athlete that would get up to bat and he swung and it was like a nice cut when he missed the ball. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, but he actually just missed the ball. What's so nice about that? But what I realized was, as a coach, there's a different sense of responsibility. And that is that, to me, that comment is an encouragement. They're saying, and you're acknowledging to the athlete, you're trying. Now, at what degree is he trying? Is he underperforming or overperforming? You would have to only know whether or not that kid basically was hitting the ball out of the park all the time at practice and somehow was psyching out. I wouldn't know that. But the message, I think, initially, for somebody that's very young, is that somebody is making an acknowledgement that you're there and you're participating. And I think the act of participating in sports is building self-esteem. So in a group environment, for an example, like soccer, you can run around on the field, never touch the ball, the team can win. You're just a part of that winning team. Or you could have actually kicked the ball to the guy that then went on to actually kick the winning goal. You are participating. So you can hide under the veil of your lack of athletic skills, or you can actually be the leader. Innately, those kids that aren't as good athletically know that. But don't deny them the opportunity to feel good about it. Now, in my day, when we went to the Junior Olympics, which was an age group meet, everybody that entered the meet got a participation certificate that was different than a trophy, because then if you won, then you either got a medal or a trophy. So there was this differentiation between what you were handed out, and it was obvious. You were handed out something that was better if you won. First time I ever went to my novice event in swimming, because I wasn't that good, it was a meet where people who really had never participated before. My mother heard my name being called out. It was just a timed event only, so you swim and whatever your time is.
Right.
So they told me to stand on a little circle, just 6 lanes in a pool, so there was 6 awards. So there was a number 6, a 5, and a 4, which was a circle. They told me to stand on number 5, and they handed me a purple ribbon. And then all of a sudden there was a little staircase. 3, 2, 1. And I realized that the guy on 1 got a blue ribbon. So I basically almost was crying, giving my mother this purple ribbon. It had a profound effect on me, and I'm telling the story now. It still does. You'll never see me wear purple. It didn't identify with me as being number 1. I didn't understand my sport and participating, that there was a valuation of that, how you did was then ranked. That was the first time I ever noticed that. And I was okay with not being a winner. And it gave me an identification of where I wanted to be. I think that now we're in a society where you watch MTV and everybody's in 4-minute sound bites. You watch Sesame Street, everybody's in a 4-minute sound bite. And our life is a 4-minute sound bite. How can you actually attain enough attention span to say what is good and what is bad? Life is designed so that if you pick up, if there's 20 things that are said in a conversation, if you pick up 5 to 10 of them, you piece together the meaning. That wasn't the way when I was. They made you sit and listen to all of the meaning, but the story wasn't as long. So we're confused with too much data, and we're spending too much time keeping score and not being able to play the game. So in one sense, it's almost okay to give somebody a participation badge or a trophy. Somewhere, by the time they get a little older,
That's the question.
They're going to wind up knowing that not everybody gets into college, not everybody gets an A, not everybody does this, not everybody gets a great car, some people drive a bicycle to school. So society in itself will impart who and where and who you are. And I speak about this all the time. 20% of society makes 80% of all the money, makes 80% of everybody else's decision. We are not designed as a society to have everybody be a winner. And you have to deal with that.
So at what point do you, as I said to Bernie Goldberg, turn the page? At what age do you stop giving out participation
When you have
trophies
lack of funds to actually buy them for them.
Well, that's the economic way.
Well,
of looking at
what
it,
happens is the programs to actually foster better. Look, they have AYSO soccer.
Yeah.
Everybody participates. Everybody has to play 3 quarters. When your kid is better, you move to club soccer. And it's when club soccer, when you're good enough to go to club soccer, then they don't have that, okay? And then if you're good enough for club soccer, then you go on to something else. So it's the same in swimming, it's the same in track and field. You move from basically novice competitions, and then you do that. When you're a high school player and you're good in sports, you may get recruited to a college, but you don't get recruited if you may be the best football player, but you may not get to USC or Notre Dame. So there's always this 20% at the top, and everybody else is basically mediocrity, but that's the way life has to survive because you can't keep everybody on the same plane.
Who's your favorite athlete to watch in any sport, Mark? Last question, right now.
I would say I enjoy watching golf. For the first time I just met Tiger Woods less than a year ago, and he had such an impact in so many different ways on golf. But I like watching just the British Open. I like this Jordan Spieth. I like the guy that won, and I like watching golf because it's very relaxing for me. I like watching football.
So what's your football team?
Well, I was actually rooting for the Colts. I met Johnny Unitas at one time, you know, when they were Baltimore. Andrew Luck, of course, coming from Stanford. And I used to like to watch the Patriots until I found out that the guy was actually throwing Nerf balls. So,
What is your thoughts on Deflategate, Mark Spitz? Before I walk you out the door here.
Okay, I don't know all the facts.
Okay, very good.
I'm just going to speak in generalities.
Sure.
The chairman of the board of that team was the quarterback. All of the actual personnel made sure that his jersey was clean, he had the right socks, he had the right tape, he had the right, you know, he laced up his own shoes, and when he picked up the balls to throw them in practice, guaranteed, they obviously were of a certain inflation.
Yes.
Which has always been what his requirement was.
Okay.
Because he's the boss, okay? It was only because a ball was intercepted, and I didn't even know this. I thought when you go to a game, the host team supplies all the balls. So
used to be that way, not anymore.
Well, no. So then you've got Patriot balls and you got Colts balls.
That's true.
Okay. A rule is a rule. If there wasn't an inflation requirement, then why have it as a rule?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that if Andrew Luck had thrown a ball that was inflated that way, that his teammates would have been able to catch that ball because they're not accustomed to catching something quite as soft.
Right.
It may or may not have had a difference. At halftime, it could have because they weren't but one touchdown behind, I think. But the reality is that to say that he didn't know what balls he was throwing, he knew exactly what balls he was throwing. He was throwing the same balls he always throws.
Mark Spitz on Deflategate. Happy birthday, Chris Brockman. He's a Patriot fan. It's his birthday. Mark Spitz, there you go.
Yeah.
I love it. Chairman of the board. He knows what's going on.
Mark, thanks for coming on. Really, please come back anytime. Now that I know for sure you are local, please, I'd love to have you back on.
Well, I've got an opinion about everything because I think that most people try to pull the wool over everybody's eyes.
Mark Spitz right here on the Rich Eisen Show. That's what he's bringing to the annual Doha Goals Forum. Can we give him a trophy? What trophy do we have right here?
We got your
for
Oscars
participating.
I want the cocktail table.
Does he want?
How about the Rich Eisen Nerf football?
Well, does he want to win the last keychain?
No. Let's brand this properly. Here, flip it over. Flip it over. Okay, here we go. Fumble on the play. Hold on. Here we go. Mark Spitz for coming on. Here's a Rich Eisen Show on Nerf football.
You know something?
Since you mentioned Nerf also.
I will actually cherish this.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.